everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in today's video we are filming my favourite video of the year, and that is my favourite books or my best books of 2021. So I can't believe we're already at the end of the year. Like, where has this year gone? Seriously, I just don't know. But this has been an amazing year for books, and I've read some absolute corkers this year that have just made it into, of course, my top 10 books of the year, but also some of these are some of my favourite books of all time. And I love filming this video because I just love reflecting back on the year that it's been in terms of, you know, what books I've been reading, what my tastes have been like for 2021. So shall we just get cracking, because I have some amazing books that I want to share with you guys. And it's also worth saying that these books are not in any order. These are my top 10 books of the year, and honestly they've all been pretty great, but there has been one standout book of the year that I wanted to mention first. So getting the spot of my favourite book of the year is Kingdom of the Cursed by Kerri Maniscalco. Guys, I have not stopped talking about this book for the last couple of months, let's just be honest. So this has taken the top spot in my best books of 2021. This book completely blew my mind in every possible way. This is the second book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and this book was just phenomenal. You won't be surprised, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely adored this, and honestly, what an incredible sequel. So Kingdom of the Wicked is a fantasy series set in Italy in the 1800s, I believe. Anyway, so this follows Amelia, who is a witch, and Amelia's twin sister Vittoria gets brutally murdered, and she has to rely on one of the 7 princes of hell, who she has been told from birth to stay away from because they hate witches and they are their mortal enemies. But Amelia has to team up with Wrath, who is one of the 7 princes of hell, to solve Vittoria's murder. So there starts an amazing fantasy series full of witchcraft, betrayal, demons, murder, dark things, and let's just say this sequel just elevates the series to a whole nother level. Let's just say things take a dramatic turn in this book. So in this book, Amelia is still trying to solve Vittoria's murder, but let's just say her relationship with Wrath definitely gets a lot more intense. And this book is actually new adult, so the age limit has been increased since Kingdom of the Wicked, which was YA. And let's just say this book is spicy, but oh my god, is it incredible. This is easily one of my favourite books of all time, and this was a complete surprise to me because I didn't expect to love this book so much. And I'm delighted to say it's my favourite book of the year. So if you haven't yet read this series and you're a fantasy fan, I would definitely recommend it. So thank you, Kerri Maniscalco, for writing a 10 out of 10 book. I absolutely adored this. So next up, we are going to go for A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. So a lot of you guys will be unsurprised that this has made its way into my top books of the year. You all know I'm a huge Sarah J Maas fan, and this is the 4th book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, but this book is focused on 2 different characters, Cassian and Nesta. And let's just say that this book is kind of like a standalone in itself, I think. You kind of need to have read the first 3 A Court of Thorns and Roses books for a richer experience, but really, like, this is their own story, I would say. When I read this, my mind was blown. This was the most fun reading experience ever. The romance. I am deceased. Honestly, this book was phenomenal, and I've been waiting for this book for a very long time because I'm a big Nesta fan, I'm a big Cassian fan, and this was worth the wait. I'm just going to be honest. Also, this is a behemoth of a book, but I enjoyed every page, and a lot of this book was just romance. I think in terms of the plot, you know, the plot was good, but for me, it was the romance that really just cemented this book as a favourite book of the year for me. And I'm really pleased to say that this completely matched my expectations and exceeded them. Okay, so a book I read at the start of the year is another fantasy book, and it's another sequel. All these books are like fantasy sequels so far. I have like no shame about that. It is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. So this is the 2nd book in the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang, and honestly, I was terrified for this book. If you have read the Poppy War series, you will kind of know why. The Poppy War ends on a very dramatic note. And if you've never read the Poppy War before, the Poppy War is a grimdark fantasy series featuring Rin, who is a kind of shaman and has these like magical abilities. But this book is set primarily in a war. So this book series is inspired by the Opium Wars, and this is a very dark, very gritty fantasy series, which honestly, the first book blew me away, and I had a lot of expectations on the Dragon Republic, which is book 2. Now, I won't go too much into the plot of this because there are a lot of spoilers and I do not want to risk that. So let me just say, the Dragon Republic was incredible. I think this elevates the series to a whole other level, and that's why I just had to include this in this best books of the year video, because I kind of thought maybe this book wouldn't be as good as the Poppy War because I adored that book so much. However, the Dragon Republic is perhaps a stronger book. I think the Dragon Republic honestly matched my expectations, exceeded my expectations, and honestly proved to me that R.F. Kuang is a very, very talented writer. And I have not yet read the third book in the series, The Burning God. I hope to read that very, very soon, but big fan here, already a huge fan of the Poppy War series, and Dragon Republic did not let me down, I'm very pleased to say. Okay, so next up we have A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. So this is a historical fiction YA book, and this is basically set in the roaring 20s and features a girl called Lou who has grown up next to this kind of house in Cornwall, and this big house has kind of been deserted for years, but then all of a sudden this house comes back to life, and Lou becomes entranced with its new residents and becomes a part of their world, which is a very kind of glamorous world, full of excess, full of parties, full of like extraordinary wealth, and she gets sucked up in all of that. But this is set over the course of a summer, and I actually read this book just after I came back from Cornwall this summer, where this book is set, and oh my god, it was the most enchanting, magical book ever. I'm now just a huge Laura Wood convert. I think her writing is beautiful, and if you are looking for like pure escapism in a book, but also a really well done historical novel with kind of Great Gatsby vibes, then this book is 100% the one for you. I haven't seen this book get a lot of love on BookTube, and I must say, I think you are all sleeping on this. If you've not yet read this, A Sky Painted Gold is phenomenal. It is a romance, there is a romance at the heart of it, and it's incredible. I loved Lou, the main character. I loved all the characters in this book. But honestly, I would recommend this book for a beautiful, understated romance set in the 1920s. In a similar vein, I basically went to Cornwall this summer and I wanted to read a load of Cornish fiction. So whilst I was in Cornwall, I read Jamaica In by Daphne du Maurier. And Daphne du Maurier, as you may well know, is the author of Rebecca, which is probably her most famous work. Now, Jamaica In, I have kind of seen around quite a few times. Like, I know there was a big kind of TV adaptation, and I have obviously heard of this book before I read it, but I was not prepared by how phenomenal this book would be. This book is super dark. It is a historical novel and it's set in Cornwall, but this book really focuses around smuggling, and it is about a girl called Mary who basically goes to stay when her mother passes away and she basically loses her family. She has to go stay with a relation of hers who is married to this landlord of a place called the Jamaica Inn. Now, the Jamaica Inn, at first glance, is a very shoddy place. It's very run down, very destitute. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. But Mary then uncovers something darker to Jamaica Inn. There are very questionable characters hanging around this inn, and even though it's an inn, nobody stays overnight, and there's all sorts of mystery going on there. Then Mary uncovers the secret to Jamaica Inn and her very, very, you know, questionable uncle, who is quite a villainous character, let's just say that. He is a very complex character, and honestly, this book is phenomenal. It does have a romance to it. It has every element of like a dark Cornish novel that you would want. It's very kind of moody, very atmospheric. It's set near Bodmin Moor, and obviously features smuggling, which, if you know anything about that, yeah, quite a dodgy business. So I really would recommend Jamaica In. If you've not actually read this yet, but you have read Rebecca, try Jamaica In. I think you will be impressed. Okay, so the next book is another kind of dark book, and it's of course fantasy, because I am a sucker for fantasy. It is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maharin. So this is the first novel of a series. I think just the Serpent and Dove series, maybe it's called. Anyway, this book is about witchcraft and about a witch in particular. So this also features a character called Lou. There's been a few, you know, another book with Lou as a main character, but Lou is a witch, and she basically finds herself in a situation where she has to marry a witch hunter. And this is also set in kind of historic France, maybe? Is it set in France? It's kind of like set in this like fictional France. So it's called Belterra, this fictional world, but it's very inspired by like French culture, and it seems very French. I really like that French inspired fantasy world. I thought it was really well done. The world building in this is beautiful. Lou as a main character is incredible. Like, she is just someone you need to root for. Obviously, she's trying to hide her true nature to her husband, who is obviously a witch hunter, but she falls in love with him in the process, and let's just say this is one hell of a dramatic novel. If you like dark fantasy, if you like forbidden love or forbidden romance, this is probably really up your street. And I do have the second book in the series, Blood and Honey, to read. I haven't read that book yet, but honestly, like, this book blew me away. I had such a great time reading this, and I am just like hooked. So I really need to finish the series soon, but I was really impressed with this first installment of a new fantasy series. And honestly, if it's witchy, if it's dark, if it's fantasy, if there's a romance, I'm here for it. Okay, quite different now. My next favourite book of the year, It's Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. So this is my gorgeous proof that was gifted to me from Faber. So thank you guys so much for saving my life this year and gifting me a proof of Sally Rooney's new novel. So I was going into this book with cautious expectations because it's Sally Rooney, guys. I am a huge Normal People fan. I love Sally Rooney's writing, and honestly, this had a lot of expectations from my side. So I was really impressed with Beautiful World, Where Are You? I think I gave this book 4 stars, but it still made its way into my favourite books of the year, just because the reading experience I had with it was just so amazing, and I enjoyed reading this book so much. Also, the writing is just absolutely brilliant, and I actually filmed a whole reading vlog where I read this book and kind of gave it a review at the end, so I will leave that down below so you can check that out for a more detailed review. But basically, this features 2 sets of friends and basically follows their life as they like stumble into relationships, as they try to build careers for themselves. And with Sally Rooney novels, like, not a lot goes on plot-wise, but it is more about the introspection and the kind of like observations of the world from the points of view of these 2 women. And honestly, there are so many passages that I have like marked and underlined, and this book just spoke to me, you know? Like, there were so many incredible passages to this book, which I absolutely loved. So of course this book had to be in my books of the year. Okay, so the next book is Roundbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. So this was just a 10 out of 10 year for fantasy, because I read Roundbreaker. This is a gorgeous proof that was kindly gifted to me from Orion Books. So thanks to you guys for gifting me this beautiful proof. I'm a huge Victoria Aveyard fan, and when I heard she was writing a new epic fantasy series with many different points of view, and it's kind of like a, you know, what if the heroes didn't do their jobs and didn't save the world, so saving the world falls to the B team, what happens then? I knew I had to read this book. So Roundbreaker, I am very pleased to say, did not disappoint. I read this book in 24 hours because I'm crazy, but I filmed a 24-hour reading vlog reading this book, and my little mind was blown. Like, Victoria Aveyard is one intelligent, brilliant writer. She honestly pulled it out of the bag with Roundbreaker. If you want an epic fantasy in the veins of like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, everything like that, all your kind of traditional fantasy, you will get that in Roundbreaker because it is a beautifully well done novel, and the scale of it, you can imagine this book series is going to be insane. So I'm already counting down to the next book, and I know it won't disappoint, but this was such a reading experience, such a highlight for me this year to read a 10 out of 10 start to a new fantasy series. And last but not least, guys, I had to include this next book in my top books of the year. I finally read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and my dark academia dreams were finally answered. Oh, where to start on this novel, guys? I also filmed a reading vlog of where I read this, and I'll leave that link down below. As with any reading vlog I've done featuring one of the books I mentioned today. Where to start with The Secret History? Like, this is an iconic book and I absolutely loved it. I don't think there's anything more to say. If you've not yet read The Secret History, I would urge you all to do it because I missed out on this. I slept on this book for so long, and then this year I finally read it and it blew me away. But basically The Secret History was phenomenal, and I'm so glad I read it because it's a perfect murder mystery, perfect for kind of like the darker evenings if you haven't read this yet. I think it's a really good time of year to read this actually. So big fan. Secret History had to be in my top 10 books of the year. So guys, that is my top books of the year video, my favorite books of the year. I'm so delighted to have got to film this video again. I love filming this video and talking about the best books I read in the past year, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know what your favorite books of the year are down in the comments below, because I want to hear what books you've been reading this year, and keep your eyes peeled for more exciting videos to come over the next few weeks. And thank you so much for your support this year. I appreciate you all so much from the bottom of my heart. You guys are phenomenal. I am blessed to have you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.